Hey friends, welcome to a new episode on building an NFT marketplace using Solidity and Flutter. So in the previous lesson, we looked at creating the smart contract itself using Solidity. We went through every feature that we're going to be implementing, and in this new episode, we're going to focus on creating the application itself, which will be a Flutter application, and we're going to provide all the features and go to each feature one by one, which later on we're going to integrate with the smart contract. So let's begin. Alright, so let's start by creating our Flutter application by using the command flutter create and enter your application name. If you're new to Flutter, I have a video that explains how to get started with Flutter so you can be familiar with it. So once we've created our application, we've navigated to our new application. It will contain the basic project structure. So in our lib folder, we're going to create a folder called features that will hold all our features. We'll create a folder called landing, which will hold our first feature, which is our landing screen. And inside it, we're going to organize our another folder called presentation to represent our UI. Create a simple stateful widget called the landing screen, the landing. So in the main.dat, we're just going to clean up. It comes with pre-existing code, so we're just going to replace the home page with our landing class. And once that is done, we're going to just remove the debug banner. So currently our landing screen just holds a scaffold, so we should just see a simple white screen. So now let's design it. First of all, we're going to create a safe area. The safe area is just to be able to create a screen that does not have an app bar, and then we're going to add a center widget. Inside it, we're also going to create a column widget so that we can align our widgets vertically. So first things we're going to create is circular text. It's just a form of design. This is a Flutter plugin that exists. We install it by passing the command flutter pub add. So we're going to design a simple circular text that will be at the center of this screen, and that will hold two texts. The first text will be new era, and the second text will be NFT magazines. Remember, we are creating NFT magazines in form of a subscription model. So this is more of like creating a beautiful aesthetic for us. We're creating a folder called utils that will hold our colors or the themes that we're going to use within the project. So we're separating it in a different file where we can actually reuse it within the whole project and not have to repeat over and over again. So back to our index, we are setting our colors. We are going to add a few things from the background paint to the positioning, how we want our text to be rotated. So you can already see our center circle, and then our two texts will be revolving around this circle. So we are going to give it a few settings so that it can be able to do that. And also we're going to define the style of our two texts, starting with the new era, and then NFT magazine will have a different style. So as you can see, our texts have appeared. Just need to finish up on a few aesthetics. We'll also add the Google fonts so that we can design it. So we're also going to create a new file called fonts.dat that will hold our different Google fonts that we're going to use within the application. Then inject it into our landing widget. So let's restart our application so that the plugin that we've added can be reflected. Now as you can see in our screen, we have our font has changed based on what we have passed. Let's just set our text to uppercase. Great. So once that's done, let's focus on the next text, which will be our tagline. So whatever we have created is more of like a headline, the bigger picture, and then now we're going to create a text that will represent our tagline. Then we'll create another one called which will represent our description. So our tag, we have set another file called constants.data will hold our main string constants that we'll be using within the application. So let's design our tagline and give it some styling. Great. So now let's work on the layout and the padding part so that our tagline is more visible. Set padding at the bottom so that you can see our text discover properly. Great. Next, let's provide another text that will represent description. So it will state, it will be in a smaller font from the rest. Let's style it. Great. The world's first NFT magazine marketplace is now being able to display our three main groups of text. Next, now let's create an action, call to action. Let's style our button. Let's remove the const keyword. Great. Now let's just set some padding. Let's actually set it at the footer of the screen, which is called the bottom navigation bar. Beautiful. And we have added all the elements in our screen. Now let's focus on the home screen. Let's create a folder called home, and inside it let's create a folder called presentation, which will hold the UI revolving around the home screen. Let's create a stateful widget called home, set the scaffold and add the app bar. We'll give it the title NFT magazines. Let's set it on the constants.dat and import our constants.dat into the home stateful widget. Now once that's done, let's work on our routes. So our default route is the landing. Now we're going to prepare the one for home so that we can set a navigator functionality on the explore button that's on the landing screen that will direct us now to the home screen. Great. So let's pass home. So if we restart our application, when we click on explore, great, we're now in and we're in the home screen. So now let's work on the home screen. Let's create our background, set our background to our brand color, which is already prepared in the colors.dat. We want to remove the back button that's on the up bar. Then let's style our title to hold a specific font that we have set in the fonts.dat. Great. Let's not center our title, because on the right side of on the other side we're going to create some few actions. Great. The first action will be the search feature. For now we're going to provide an icon button for that will represent that functionality. The next one will be an action chip that will display the balance of the person interacting with the app or the user, and the balance will be in form of Ethereum. So we're going to provide an icon that represents wallet to show what the balance that the user has in their specific Ethereum address. Great. Let's set the color of our action chip and also give it an on-pressed functionality. Set the styling, but for all these styles to be visible, if our widget is one that has an on-pressed property, you have to set it even if you're not going to give it any logic, so that it can be seen as active. Great. Let's do some padding. Great. Next, now let's work on the body. Our body will have a grid view, and we're just going to populate a few items on the screen. That will hold the text NFT here. So let's just restart. Great. So our grid view will build the widget or return a widget for for us. And right now we have just set a text widget that says NFT here 5 times. But now let's work on that specific part which holds a text widget, because it's not supposed to hold the text widget, it's supposed to hold another feature called an NFT card. So let's create a folder for it, create the presentation folder, and inside it let's design the UI. Great. So the UI will hold it will be a card. So as we update the NFT, yes, let's pass it, and then so that whenever we are making any updates on the NFT card, it will be visible as you can see on the screen. So now let's work on it. So let's set the elevation to 3.0 so it's more visible at the top. Next, we're going to shape it. Great. Let's set the child. So there are a few items that will be in this card which will be aligned vertically, so we're using the column widget. Our first item will be an image or the magazine cover. So we're just going to add a default one. Add the image itself in the artsets folder, and then we're going to set it and configure it in the pubspec.yum. Great. And then we're going to set that the URL on the config.dat, which we have set in the utils folder. Let's import it and save. Let's set the size. Beautiful. So in the screen you can see our images in every card. So let's continue. We're going to create a list style that will hold the name of the magazine and a small circular avatar. Beautiful. Beautiful. Background, set our theme color. Then let's the title, will set it as the name of the magazine. Let's set the padding so that it's not overflowing. It does not start directly from the start of the card and the end, so it's within. Great. So yeah, this is how our magazines will be displayed or viewed in the first screen. So we're done with the main elements of lastly, we're going to now add the bottom navigation bar. We're going to use a fancy Flutter plugin called bottom navy bar. You can use the basic bottom navigation bar, but let's make it more aesthetic by using the bottom navy bar. We'll have two menus at the bottom. Let's set our 3 menus: home, create NFT, and profile. So we have our bottom navigation bar, we have home, and we're going to activate the rest as we go. Okay, now let's look at the subscribe screen. The subscribe screen is where the user will subscribe to a specific NFT magazine that they would like to read or to buy the subscription. So we're going to create a folder called presentation and give it an index.dat, create the stateful widget and call it subscribe. Great. So it's going to be a scaffold because we're going to create a whole screen. So next, let's go to main.dat, add a route for subscribe. And then we'll set our navigation functionality on these specific cards that we created in the home screen. So we're going to give it an action listener where if someone clicks on any specific NFT card, it opens the subscribe screen containing the specific details of that specific NFT magazine. So let's add that. We're going to give the card and set it inside an inkwell, a gesture detector. Inkwell is another option, you can also use that. So we set on tap and add our navigator to subscribe. Great. So if we refresh our app just to make sure our routes are set, when we click we see our white screen, so that's great. Now let's work on our subscribe screen. We'll create an app bar. Inside our app bar, we're going to create a few actions. The first action will be a favorite feature. We want to allow the user to be able to like a specific NFT magazine. If you recall in the and then we'll create another one for share. Great. So let's handle the Let's handle the functionality of the favorite button, just to make sure that it's responsive, sorry. And then let's handle the on pressed, to be able to hold the state of the action that the user has set. Great. So if we click on our favorite button, great, so it's responsive. Next, let's head over to the body. Now body will have a single child scroll view, and inside it we're going to add the column widget to be able to align our items vertically. First thing, we're going to start with our magazine cover. Great. Then let's set it. Let's reduce the size a little bit. By setting it inside a container. Beautiful. Next, let's set the name of our magazine. Let's style it. Great. So now let's install the Flutter package, Flutter lorem, so that it helps us generate some default paragraphs of words. So create our text, lorem, set a paragraph of 1, great. Let's style our text. So this will represent the description of the magazine cover, what the magazine cover is all about. When we're creating our NFT, we'll have that section where you'll be able to provide the title, which in our case here it's fashion, be able to provide the description, which is what now we are setting, and also be able to upload magazine cover. So these are the details. When you want to know more about a magazine, when you click from the first screen, the home screen, these are the main details that you get. And of course, at the point where the user will set a magazine cover, an NFT magazine on sale, you'll be able to see also the cost or how much one needs to pay to buy a subscription of a specific NFT magazine in form of Ethereum. So next, we're just creating a row that shows who is the owner of the NFT magazine. Right now, we're just setting the text to Jane Doe. We were giving it an action chip because the idea is that however much we're displaying the name, that's the default name for now. Not sure if we should actually set the Ethereum address, but the moment you click on that action chip, it takes you to the profile of the user, of the owner of that Ethereum address, or the owner of that magazine cover that you have viewed, the NFT magazine that you have viewed. So it will be an action chip, so that you can get to see the profile of the creator of that NFT magazine. So let's just add a few aesthetics. I remove the const keyword, because you can see, we can see our row, but let's clean it up a little bit. Great. Let's add a spacer between the two and just close up on the layout, center everything, add a padding so that it aligns with the rest of the top widget. Great. Next, let's create the call to action where the user will click to subscribe. So we'll set that in our bottom navigation bar. In this bottom navigation bar, it will show two things. It will show the price of the subscription and the call to action, or the button to click to actually subscribe to it. So the price will be set in Ethereum. Right now we're just setting the text. So the items have been displayed, the widgets. Let's now just add some aesthetics to clean it up. Great. Let's increase the size of the icon and also add a spacer to separate the two items. The subscribe button will be at the far end. Now let's work on the text subscribe so that it's more visible. Great. So we can see our subscribe button. So we've completed the whole subscribe screen with all the features that are needed for this. Now let's create the create NFT screen. This is where we will create our specific NFT magazine. So let's create a stateful widget called create NFT. Let's create a scaffold. So in our, if you recall, we created our bottom navigation bar in the home screen. It has 3 menus. There's the home, there's a create NFT, and there's a profile. So we want to set up the second, when someone clicks the second menu item, it displays the create NFT screen. So we are handling that on the home screen first, so we can be able to save the state of whichever menu item that has been clicked. So if the first item has been clicked, it will display the home screen, what we have in the home screen. If the second item is clicked, it should display now the create NFT screen that we want to work on. So if we do that, we expect a white screen, a container, sorry. Great, so it's empty. So now let's work on our create NFT screen. So first things first, we create a single child scroll view so that it's easy to scroll through depending on whichever size of device that one is using. We'll enter our children from the column widget, and we'll start with the text title, which will be the header, and another header called description. Then let's style them. Let's do the same for description label. Next, let's create the text fields. One will be for the title and the other one will be for the description. This is where the user will enter the title and the description. Great. So now let's work on the layout. Great, so we have our title and description. Let's create our placeholder where our image will be displayed, or where the user will click and upload an image either locally. But we're going to do something different. We're going to integrate with something else so that you can get a magazine cover. So we have installed the dotted border just to create that aesthetic of something needs to be displayed here. We just set the text. Generate magazine cover. So the reason why we're using generate is because we're going to integrate with a third party that we will discuss on later on, that will help us use the help of AI to generate a magazine cover, and we'll see how that works. So just setting the padding to set the border properly, and then we're adding an inkwell so that we can give it an action listener, so that when a user clicks, it's supposed to execute a certain logic, or in our case that's why we're going to integrate with a third party AI. I'll mention the third party as we go along. Great. So lastly, let's add our actual call to action, which is our button. We'll name it create NFT. Let's style it. Great. Let's border it with a container. Beautiful. So there we have it, our simple create NFT screen. Now let's look at the profile screen, which is our next feature. Our profile will contain a few some information about the user or the person who is accessing the application, and also let's say more of like account information. It will show the number of NFTs that they have created, the number of NFTs that they have collected, the number of followers, and the number of following that they have. So we'll start by creating a simple folder called profile, and we're going to go and specify in our home and activate our third menu item. As you can see, now we have our 3 menu items at the bottom functioning well. So now let's focus on my profile. We'll add a Flutter plugin called Flutter emoji just to represent an avatar for this user. Great. So there it is. Let's just change a few things. Set the background to a grayish one. Great. The beauty of this plugin is that it also has a customizer. So if you want to actually customize your emoji in terms of hair, eyes, nose, this Flutter plugin can help you do that. But for now, we're just setting it as an avatar. Next, we're going to set a dummy address in the config.dat, and which we're going to add it in our profile but we're just going to pick the first 9 characters in the dummy address to be displayed. Great. So next thing, let's just style the dummy address so that it's also more visible. We'll create a simple row widget that will contain the attributes that I mentioned. That is the number of NFTs, the number of followers this user has, and the number of following. Great. So let's center our space them. Yes. Let's style our texts. Mainly the numbers, let them be bold and big. Great. So next we'll create an action of a button that allows another user to follow another profile. So let's create an elevated button. We'll use the default tab controller to divide two groups of data. We want to display one tab that holds a user's NFT, the NFTs that a user has created, another tab that will hold the NFTs that one has collected or subscribed to. So let's set the style so that we can view the icons. Great. And also the labels. We can do that in one of the properties that tab bar has. So you can set the label color to the brand color. Now we can see our texts. And our selected tab is index 0, which is the first one, my NFTs. So the next thing we need to do is set the content for the two tabs. The first tab will show a grid view like we did in the home screen to just show some of the NFTs magazines this user has. And then the content for the collectibles will just represent what we would actually display if there were no NFTs or there will be no data to display. Yeah. And if there is data, we'll be able to display a grid view. So let's do that. So the second tab will be just an empty container, but I want us to display something. Whenever there is no data to display, we want to use a specific Flutter plugin to represent a beautiful widget that shows that there's no content, there are no NFTs to display. So we'll be using the empty widget Flutter plugin. That's what we'll replace with the empty container. Great. So let's polish it up. Great. Let's just change the package image to one that looks relevant for us. Image 3 looks more relevant because we're focusing on magazines. Great. So we have added all the elements for our profile. As you can see, we're able to see information about a specific user. We're able to see the NFTs and also their collectibles, and know what we're going to display if there's no data or there are no NFTs to display. So yeah. And we have all our elements widgets displayed. So that's great. Alright, now let's focus on the search functionality. We added a search button on the home screen at the up bar. So it's currently displaying whenever you go to the home screen, the create NFT and my profile at the top. But what we want to do is first make sure that it's only being displayed on the first tab, which is a home screen where we are seeing the list of NFT magazines. So to do that, we just need to create a small condition within the widget. As you can see, it's only being found now on the first menu item. Great. So next, we're now going to create the logic for the search feature. So we're going to use the inbuilt show search and use the search delegate, but we're going to create our own class that extends the search delegate. So to do that, within the home presentation folder, let's create our custom search. delegate. Let's extend the search delegate. And add it to our file. Now let's work on our class, the custom search delegate. So when you extend the search delegate, it comes with 4 functions: the build actions, build leading, build results, and build suggestions. So we want to set our own code on that. So build actions are what you want to display after the search query, and the build leading is before the current query in the app bar. So it allows you to just override the logic in those functions and set your own. Then in the build results, it also allows you to handle when a user queries what to display. So we're going to set a dummy, we're just going to set a list that already has a few such items for now. So we're going to display an array or a list that has fashion, sports, and women magazines. So we're going to come here and do our query, handle the query. If a user actually queries through that search list, how it should behave. And you'll find that the logic for build results is also equivalent to the build suggestions. We can always change things up, but in our case it will be just the same. And if you look at the data type for these functions are in widget. That's how you find that we're adding widgets inside our functions. So this function is the one that will help us search, and then it will output for us the match of whatever we have inserted. Great. So as you can see, if we decide to search sports, it's able to display. If it's fashion, if it's to clear, it's able to clear. So all the functions are actually working. So we want, if we search for example sports or fashion, when it displays, we want to be able to click that list style and direct us to the subscribe screen that we had created earlier on. And as we start using or interacting with the data, you'll find that our subscribe will have properties. So if somebody selects and says sports, it will pass the props of that specific magazine and be able to display it on the correct data on the subscribe screen. But for now, we're just navigating to the subscribe screen, and it will just show the default data that we had set when designing its UI. So if you try again and search fashion when you click, or sports when you click, it directs us to the subscribe screen. But now when you go back, it leads us back to the list view of the search. So what we want to do is handle the back feature of the subscribe screen. To do that, we will use wheel pop scope on the subscribe class, and then handle the back button. As you can see now, it's working properly. Now let's work on the next feature, which is the magazine screen. This feature we'll find it on if you go to my profile, in my NFTs tab, when we click that card, we're able to see our magazine, and we're able to see the different topics that are there that we have created, or articles in short. So in our NFT card, if you remember, this NFT card class is being used twice, in the home screen and also in my profile screen. So you want to handle it in that. Right now, when you click on this card, it directs us to the subscribe screen, but that's not what we need to do in my profile tab. In my profile tab, if I click on that NFT card, mainly my NFTs, I want to see the magazine itself, the articles that are there. So you want to handle it by implementing props. So to do that, first we're just creating an enumeration that will show the uniqueness between the two sources. From, if we're calling the NFT card from the home, it should pass the enumeration home. If we're calling it from my profile, my NFTs tab, it should show the enumeration my NFTs. So that's how we're doing it. So we're passing a prop called source that will handle that. And then when we head over to our NFT card, we want to manage, once we have add those props on the two screens, we want to now manage it on the NFT card and say that if the source is from home, let's navigate to the subscribe screen. But if the source is from my NFTs, let's navigate to the magazine screen, which we are creating right now. Great. So if we try this, we go to explore. As you can see, it's working in my profile. Now we get to see the magazine screen. Now let's work on it. So in our scaffold, we'll create an upper. Then in the body, we're going to add a few items, a few widgets, and we're going to align them vertically. So we'll need the column widget. We'll start with the title of the magazine, which is the same as whatever was displayed on the NFT card that we selected. So right now we just set as fashion to uppercase, and then let's just style it. Great. Next, let's we'll need to generate some widgets dynamically. So we'll create a function called build widgets. And that's what we're going to pass inside the body of the scaffold. So we're creating a simple card that will hold that will have the image of the we're taking a scenario where in the magazine there are articles, and every article will have like a feature image, but right now we're just setting the feature image as a magazine cover. So we'll have that magazine cover or the feature image, and then that will be on the left side. Then on the right side we're going to have now the date, the name of the article, and a text that says read article. So let's do that. So let's just set some alignments, and then once we have created one, we're just going to generate a few of them using a for loop, just to show how the magazine would look like when it has a number of articles. Great. So we're adding an inkwell on the card so that we can create an action on the list on the card itself, so that when you click, you're able to see now the actual article. So the article has a title color mode. So when you click on it, you should be able to see the article, the title, and the whole article, and be able to read it. So that's the idea. Now that we have our card, what we want to do is Now do a simple for loop, as I had said, so that we generate a number of them and see how our screen would look like. Just a minute. Great. So since we're returning a list of widgets or children, so we need to pass our build widgets inside of a widget like column that manages children. Yes, now let's return. We weren't returning anything, that's why there was an error. As you can see, we can now see a list of generated articles or topics, and this is our magazine screen. We are just extracting widgets from the large code that we have created for the for loop so that it's manageable. So that our for loop is short and manageable. We're just optimizing the code a little bit. Great. And this is how simple our magazine screen looks like. Now let's look at the article screen. What the article screen refers to is when we created the magazine screen, each card has an action listener. So when you click, we want to be able to see the article, the specific article selected. So that's the screen that we're working on. So as usual, we create our feature and then we're going to create a route for the article screen, and then set the navigator in the magazine where we had set the inkwell. Great, so that when we click it, we're in our screen. Awesome. So now let's create our screen. So we'll have a scaffold as usual, because we're creating a full screen. We'll add our up bar. Then set our body. Set it as single child scroll view, because we are expecting to display a long list of text, so a user can be able to scroll downwards. Then we're going to be holding a number of widgets vertically, aligned vertically. That's why we need the column widget. So we set our title, then we set our date that will be aligned, and then lastly we set our article text, which we'll use the Flutter lorem to generate that. Give it a few paragraphs and set a number of words. Beautiful. So you can already see we have displayed our text, or what we would want it to look. So now let's work on the aesthetics. Starting with the up bar, we just want to give it that effect where it's starting from the top, at the top of the device downwards, without any break in terms of color. So we're setting the up bar to white and removing the elevation. And also setting the body to plain white, so that it looks like the screen is flowing from the top of the device downwards. Now let's work on the style, starting with the title of the article. Let's work on the date, which we will align on the right. Great. So just playing around with the style for the article itself, and setting the layout, the padding. It looks better. And we can scroll our article, which is great. Lastly, we want to add a certain feature at the bottom to give that effect of scrolling, so that even if you select the first article, you're able to scroll and go to the next one without going back. You're able to go through the whole magazine just by scrolling to the next one, or turning the page. It more or less has the effect of turning a page. So it's like you're reading a magazine as you would naturally. So we have set that feature at the bottom right, and we have given it the text next. So on press, that's where we're going to use the functionality of the turn page transition Flutter plugin. Great. So for now, what we're doing is, as you can see that effect, but now we're telling it go to the next one. We're just directing it to the same screen, but the idea is that we're going to be updating, so you're able to see the next article and the next article just like that. So it's simple. Okay, now let's focus on create article screen. The create article screen is where the owner of the account will be able to create an article for a specific NFT magazine that they created. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to set a text field where a user can actually enter a prompt. So if you've been here for quite some time, you'll see that I have created some few tutorials on OpenAI GPT-3 and how to be able to integrate with it. So you can actually do the same on in this add that functionality in this application. So in this case, we just created a text field that allows the user to enter a prompt, and then we're going to use the Flutter Lorem Flutter package to generate an article for us. Of course, it won't be readable, but the idea is that I didn't want to remove the focus of what the main focus of this tutorial is, which is NFT marketplace with Ethereum, Solidity, and Flutter, by introducing a very huge and important topic like AI or OpenAI GPT-3. So if you want to, we're going to just generate a simple use Lorem to generate a simple article, but you can replace that part with generating by integrating with a third-party AI like OpenAI GPT-3 to be able to generate for you a long list of an article using the prompt that you'll enter in the text field that we're going to create. So yeah, so basically that's what we're going to do. So we have created a route that directs us to the create article screen, and when we're going to create we've created an action at the top of the magazine screen that says create an article. When you click that, that's what will direct us to the create article screen. Great. Beautiful. So now let's start designing our create article. So we're just going to enter we'll set a simple up bar, give it the title text, create an article, remove the const or keyword, then let's style it, give it the font family of title font, then let's head over to the body, and in our body we're going to set that text field, but we're going to have a text field and an action, call to action, which will be a button. So we're going to align them vertically. That's why we need the column widget. So let's set the text field. So text field will have a hint text, enter prompt to generate your article. Great. Now let's create the button. When you click on this button now, if you decide to actually integrate with a third-party AI, this is where you now put your functionality. But in our case, we're just going to use the Lorem Flutter plugin to generate some text simply. Okay, next let's focus on the publish article screen. So what will happen is, after entering a prompt in our create article screen, we are going to click on create, and depending on whatever, if you've used a third party AI, it should be the logic should be executed at that point. Then it will direct us to the publish article screen, where we'll see the article that has been created and be able to push it or publish it, in short. So we just created a route for it, and we're going to head over to its folder and design the publish article screen. But first, let's set the navigator on the create button in the create article screen, so that when you click on it, it directs us to the publish article screen. Great. So we have a white blank screen. Now let's work on it. Let's set the text publish creating. That means our article is being generated and displayed on the screen. And then we're going to set our body. We will have our column that will hold 3 widgets vertically. First, we'll have the first one as text, which will represent the title of the article. We're going to use Lorem to generate that. set to uppercase. Great. Let's add the animated text kit Flutter plugin. We want to create an animation on the text that we're going to display, which will represent the article that has been generated. So we're going to use a typewriter animated text in the animated text kit. It will look something like that. Great. So article looks good. It's being displayed in written format using the typewriter animation. So lastly, we're going to just enter our elevated button that says publish article. And at this point, it's where we will link we'll publish or we'll host our article, and then we're going to link it to the magazine itself when we start integrating it with a smart contract. Beautiful. And simply that, we are done with the publish article screen. So let's head over to the next one. Alright, so the next feature is place on sale screen. So if you recall, in creating an NFT marketplace, there are two important functionalities that are usually involved, which is buying NFT and selling NFT. So in our case, it's buying a subscription and setting a magazine on placing a sale on a magazine subscription. So what we're doing is that once you create the magazine cover, we want to place it on sale and create a subscription sale for it. So we're going to create a screen that will be able to allow the user to set the price and also the duration at which the subscription will last. So to do that, we set the root and also the root of the place on sale in the main dot, and then we're just creating an action chip in the magazine screen because we are placing a sale on a specific magazine. So it seems fit to put it there. So once that is done, should be able to see our action chip that states place on sale, and we're going to give it an functionality where we navigate to the place on sale screen. Great. Now let's work on the place on sale screen. Now body, let's enter our two text fields. That allows us to set a price, and that allows us to set a duration. Done. Next, now let's look at two important features that we want to add also to the magazine screen, which is the renew and the cancel subscription features. Since we're creating an NFT marketplace, but we're also extending the ERC 5643, which supports the subscription model. So one of the two among the processes that are supported in the ERC 5643 is the renew subscription and cancel subscription. So we want to also add those two features in the magazine screen. So we'll basically just set the cancel subscription at the top before the title for now, and then when you click on it, that's when we're going to get a alert dialog, and if somebody accepts to cancel, it should be able to cancel at the back end or in the smart contract level. And also we're going to add the renew subscription at the bottom as a floating button, so that when you click on it, it's able to process the renew subscription process. Basically that's all we're going to do for those two features. We have gone through so many features during this lesson. I really hope it has given you a hindsight of how an NFT marketplace looks like generally, and also with the concept that we are using, which is a subscription model, and everything makes sense. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask down below or through the Slack link that I also share in the description box. So let's see you in the next lesson, where we will now integrate the two major developments that we have created within the series.